Welcome to Astoria Film Festival Presents, our weekly half-hour program featuring our films, filmmakers, events, and the local community.
So everybody, welcome to our Black History Month filmmakers and media professionals panel. We really appreciate our moderators for coming and our panelists for coming and all of you for coming. Tanya LeMelle is on our board of directors, and she's also a VP at TD Bank, and she does pretty much everything. You're also on the PTA at Frank Sinatra Film, correct?
Yes.
And Dr. Maria DeLonghoria is a professor at Medgar Evers College and also the executive director of the, and I should have written this down, the Caribbean Center at Medgar Evers College. Is that correct?
The Caribbean Research Center, yes.
Caribbean Research Center. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. And I am going to mute and stop my video. And if you're not on the panel, I would ask you to do that too. And then we'll come back for Q&A at the end.
Great. So thank you, panelists, for joining us today for the Black History Month Black Media Professional Panel.
There you go. All right. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. We're going to just start with a few questions. Just join in a conversation. We're not going to direct questions at anyone in particular. But I'm going to start off with a question about collaborations. And generally speaking, when we want to learn about a project or a film campaign, we talk to the project director or the lead, right? But those of us that work in media arts know that it's really more of a collaborative effort. What makes a fruitful collaboration, and what do you do to enhance the process?
I think that a good collaboration occurs when all sides are feel heard and respected, and also feel like their contribution will matter in the long run. I think I know that there are multiple ways to run a set, and there's the type of people who run sets where they're not looking for any input from anybody at all. Just, this is the plan and please follow it. And then there are other people who run sets where they want it to be a collaborative experience, and they want everybody to feel like they're being heard and have some sort of say in the overall outcome. And of course, there are pros and cons to all, but I truly think that if you are going to take that collaborative approach, the best way to do it is to make sure people feel heard and respected, and that even ideas that may not be your favorite ideas are still not talked down upon, or still not disregarded or tossed to the side. I know when I'm on set, I definitely used to be the type where this is my shoot. I'm really not looking for any feedback from anybody on anything that we're doing. This is the schedule. Let's just plan it and try and finish by this time. I definitely started out like that for 100%. But as the years have gone by, I've definitely it's just so hard to ignore just the benefits of collaboration. It's really hard to ignore that and just deny how much better my projects are when I open myself up to collaboration. And the film I'm working on now, this is the most collaborative I've ever been in the screenwriting process. And the script that I have now is only possible because of the collaboration I've been doing. So I definitely just try and make sure, at least on my projects now moving forward, that I always at least ask for another opinion, or at least ask for a second or third, sometimes fourth and fifth pair of eyes on something. Just especially because if I've selected these people to be a part of my cast and crew, it's because I value their opinion. So I should use the people who are around me. So that's really how I try and implement that in my shoots.
Love it.
Sorry, can I interrupt? Can we just go around and introduce the panel? Can you introduce yourselves and what you've been working on and where you work and what you're up to?
Sure. My name is Makeba Ross. I am a just all around filmmaker. I currently work in City Hall. I work for the Southern District Court of New York, and I am a documentary filmmaker there. I'm working on a general historical documentary about the court system, but I'm just on and off doing whatever media-based or film-based projects they might need. I've done a few COVID-related videos this past year, and now we're doing another COVID-related video because sort of like in remembrance of like the 1 year mark of this whole thing. And so I do anything media-related that needs to be done at the courthouses. And on my own, I'm heavily involved in freelance. I run my own freelance business, and I'm also a part of a freelance business called Colorway. So it's really nonstop. I only do this. And currently I'm working on a short film right now called The Big Chop. So that's really what I'm doing right now.
Thanks, Makeba. How about you, Kisha?
Hi, my name is Kisha. I am an actress, producer, writer, newly filmmaker, like within the last 2 years. I'm not currently working on anything at the moment, but I had 2 films on the festival circuit, so that was kind of my focus for the last year and a half or so. Obviously, COVID put a damper in like film festival stuff, so a lot of us kind of had a short run, or we'll have to like rethink some things. I'm currently living the unemployed life because I was waitressing in the city, and because of COVID, my restaurant shut down. So that was my survival job. So I'm kind of waiting in limbo to see what's going to happen there, but I've been staying creative. I'm primarily an actor who started creating work just to kind of learn about that side and also challenge myself. I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned so much in the process, which has been really great. I've recently just worked on some voiceover stuff, and I create content for an app called Rizzle. It's like TikTok, but they do more scripted content. So I just wrapped up 2 shows on there. They're 60-second episodes, which is really fun. I'm trying to think what else. I think that's mostly it because I don't have a direct project right now. I'm like, oh man, I'm a filmmaker that's not working on anything at the moment. But it's still early. I have good feeling about 2021.
Not always that
Exactly.
unusual, right?
Exactly. So, Mr. John Michael Reefer, thank you for joining us today. You're on mute, John.
I'm going to be on mute right now. I didn't realize I was on the mute. So I'm an independent filmmaker, mostly working in the US, but occasionally outside of the US. I've got a couple of projects in development with a few networks and looking for opportunities to tell great stories about people and the lives we lead, tragic or triumphant.
Thank you. So let's move on to the next question, and we're going to ask Mr. Austin P. to turn off his camera. Thanks, sorry. So films have such an impact on popular culture and vice versa. Do you think that those in the industry, and that's filmmakers, writers, producers, actors, etc., have a responsibility to culture of society? And does this affect the stories you tell and how you tell them?
I absolutely think that we have a responsibility to highlight the world as the way we'd like to see it, but also to examine the world the way that it is, and find a way to balance those 2 things, those 2 ideas, in really evocative storytelling. I think storytelling inspires people. Without movies, people would not understand how the world works outside of their sphere of influence. You live in New York, you live in Chicago, or you live in Bora Bora. You see a world that maybe you weren't aware, and that could inspire you and encourage you. So I think movies have a powerful place in the culture.
Right. And what do you think, Makeba? You want to add to that?
I think that even if it's not, even if we don't enter a project with the intent of, sending some sort of message to society, just by default as artists, as somebody with our own perspective and experiences, just putting that into a piece of art and then distributing it to everybody, we just, by default, we're going to have some sort of influence. We really only do what we do because somebody else did it first and influenced us to do it. And, the things that we try to incorporate in our works are things that stuck with us from someone else's work. And it really is just, it's just this cycle of just, I guess, creativity and just influence and just perspective being shared amongst everybody. I think that if we can use our work to sort of, if we can use our work as a tool, we absolutely should definitely explore that. A little art can go a long way in a lot of things. And I think films are a very tangible way, an effective way to just instill some empathy into people, whether they really are watching a film to empathize or not. I think it's a very good way to just instill empathy into somebody, just with what they're visually seeing and hearing and seeing with their eyes. So even if we don't know that we are, even if we don't plan to influence those around us, we inevitably will. You can't avoid that as an artist.
Right.
And I just want to tag on to that. I think the beauty of art and film in general is people turn to art to escape from the real world. There's so much that happens, but we look to films as a way of an escape. So I think the beauty of watching people's work is everyone's going to take away something different from it. Like we could all watch the same film and we're all going to take away something different, but that's the beauty of it. It's like we're all going to perceive it in a way, and it's a way to take us, I'm trying to think what I'm saying. It's a way to have us just escape, even if it's for 10 minutes, from everything that's happening in the world, especially during COVID. It's like there's so much crazy, but just having 10 minutes to watch that great short film that just blew you away and took you into this world that you didn't think about, or you watched a film that made you really think and you're like, wait a minute, okay, maybe that opened up some thoughts that I never thought about. I think that's the beauty of art, is it allows us to use our imagination and escape into a reality that we didn't think we had. So I think that's also why most of us create art. It's because we want someone to just watch it and have a specific feeling. And not everyone will have the same feeling, but if most people come away saying, wow, that was a really great piece of art, I think that's in the end what we're all trying to get. It's like, okay, that was what I wanted. So yeah.
Tanya?
So you go ahead.
Oh, no, I couldn't.
Can you hear? You go ahead. So I'm going to hand it over now to Maria to ask a few questions.
So good evening, everyone. This next set of questions is more focused to you all as Black media professionals versus general industry questions, right? And so if the first question, there's probably not a right or wrong answer, but it's from your perspective. I'm gonna give a little context. Black films, or race films as they were once called, date back to the early 1900s, and they were pretty easy to identify and to categorize, right? They were movies that featured Black actors telling stories for Black audience. It was simple. As formerly locked doors are being pushed open, we see a range of films with more Black actors and actresses, Black cast, Black writers, producers, content, with themes, storylines, plots, etc. And there are movies, right, with Black casts that don't focus on Black themes. There are Black writers that work on films without Black actors and actresses. There are Black producers working with a wide range of talent, and not necessarily Black talent. So that leads me to ask, with all this diversifying, what now makes a film a Black film? Everybody's like, ooh.
I think if the story resonates with a Black audience more so than when any other audience, then it's a Black film. But I think broadly, the paradigm shift has to be that we are part of this, we're part of the equation. So for many, many years, the idea was you told a universal theme, love, happiness, adventure, and so on. And we weren't part of that conversation. So I think if you set the table that we're part of that conversation, that opens up many, many more stories to be to resonate with us and to be about us. I mean, I think Black people fall in love. Black people want comfort and happiness. Black people want wealth. Black people want the prize. Black people take roles in leadership. So all of those ideas have been general market theme ideas without us. I think now the question is, how can we incorporate ourselves into those ideas and also just be more authentic? I think one of the challenges, there's an ongoing debate about the COVID movie. The name escapes me. What is the name of the movie? Someone has seen it. Someone knows about this movie. With John David Watt, with Denzel's son in it.
Tenet?
Oh,
What's it called?
Tenet?
No, not Tenet, the new one.
Oh, Judas the Black Messiah?
No, there's a movie with.
Oh my God, he has so many. Oh, Malcolm and Marie.
Malcolm and Marie.
So
there's an ongoing controversy about Malcolm and Marie, that the creator of that film let some of his inauthenticity slip into the storytelling. And people are losing their minds. I think our story is we're part of this. We're part of the global narrative. So whatever we're doing or not doing, we're doing most of the same things everyone else has been doing or not doing.
Okay. Kisha? You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
You'd think by now we'd get to. I think John Michael touched on a lot that I agree with. For instance, like you said, if it resonates mostly with a Black audience, then I would consider that a Black film. I think that's very true. And I think, gratefully we are moving in the right direction where we're seeing more predominantly Black films and more predominantly Black casts with Black crew, and we're seeing it more diversified versus, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, you'd be lucky if the lead person, whether male or female, was Black. And then that was a win back then. And now you turn on the TV and it's like, both the leads are Black. It's like, all right, and I know we still have so far to go, but it's exciting to see how far we've come, but there's still so far to go, because I think there still is that elephant in the room of like, we still need more diversity. Even though we're seeing more of it, it's still not enough, I think, in some cases. Some cases you're lucky if you walk in a writer's room and there's 2 Black people in the room. And for some people, they think, all right, that's great. We've got a diverse panel. It's like, no, if it's a room full of, white people and there's only 2 Black people, or maybe a room full of white people and maybe 2 Black, a Hispanic, and an Asian, it's like, that's still not enough. There's still so many white stories being told. And it's like, we have those same stories from a different perspective that also are of value, that also deserve to be told, that also can be heard. And from different experiences. Like, I have a different experience than John Michael has a different experience than, I'm sorry, I didn't catch your first name again.
Makeba.
Makeba, we all have very different experiences that are all very valid stories to be told. And so I'm glad we're moving in the right direction, but we still have so far to go. But at least it's exciting that we're moving there.
Makeba, you want to chime in on that?
I would say that a Black film is a film that is written and directed and produced by a Black person. I think that if a story that that is created by a Black person and executed by a Black person, I think those 2 main things, I guess, are what would qualify it for me. I guess it is, but it is interesting though, because there are so many different types of, I guess you can say, of films involving Black people now. You know, there are Black stories produced and directed by white people, and then, you know, there are white stories produced and directed by Black people sometimes as well. So, and then sometimes there's a mix of all of both of them together. It makes me wonder, I don't really have an answer, but it makes me wonder, I would think that any Black director directing a story about Black people would consider their film a Black film. And I wonder if a white director producing a Black story would also consider it a Black film, even though the person executing it and telling it and putting all the pieces in place is not Black. It's definitely an interesting thing to think about. I think that I think the main thing with Black stories is just the types of stories we tell. I think most people hopefully by now know that, you know, Black history doesn't start with slavery. And I think it's very important to just like always be showing those other stories, you know, and those other narratives and, you know, those other scenarios, other stories of Black people doing things other than, you know, being on the receiving end of trauma or pain or something like that. And I think as long as those stories are being told, we're always going to be making progress. If the story can be told by somebody who shares the experience or at least shares the heritage, it's always going to be better, and it's always going to feel more authentic. So the more of that, the better. The more of that, the better.
Okay, thanks. And I'll tell you why I asked that question and where I got it from. There was, I passed a magazine on the stand, and it was called A Celebration of Black Film. And in it, the whole first piece was talking about what makes a Black film Black. And it raised some of the points that you were talking about, that now that there are, you do, and you actually always, I won't say always, but you have had historically white people making Black films, and they made them certain ways. And so were those considered Black films, or are they not considered Black films? And when you have Black people, producers and stuff making, or writers doing films that have majority white casts, then are those still considered Black films? And so that kind of got me thinking, and I was really interested in your perspective on that. Thank you.
I think what's really important is that it is an as authentic as possible version of our experience. Because if it's not, then it's these tropes of sort of knitted together to sell tickets. But if someone is interested in if someone is interested in the humanity of people of color and wants to explore that story, then that's a Black story. I think it doesn't matter who made it. If they really come with that intention, I think that that's what's important. Because if you see the real humanity of the triumph or the struggle of those characters, then that's something that you can resonate with. If not, then it's, you know, it's soul playing.
Okay. I have another question, and then I'm going to bounce it back to Tanya, and then I guess you'll bounce it back to me, right? We're going to
Right.
So artists, and I use that term to apply all to the work that all of you do, right? All who create are very often very protective of their creations, of their work. Yet we also live in a society that's entangled with capitalism and systemic racism, controlled by people who do not look like us. Given this environment, how do you maintain your own voice in an industry built on white and male narratives?
The first and most important thing that I learned is that you don't take the baby you love to the store. So that the thing that you love the most, you have to wait. You know, you can take the Barbie doll and the G.I. Joe and see if you can get in the room and do your best. But you don't take the baby you love in there, because they're not, they're apathetic. I don't believe they have necessarily an axe to grind, but I think they're not interested and they don't care. And, you know, the amount of time that I've been in the room and I told my story and someone responded to me by saying, well, why would anybody be interested in that? I don't get it. I'll tell one Hollywood anecdote. I have this movie. It's about a guy who is homeless, and he has this epiphany. He wants to get his life back together and get to his son. And we go and we take the pitch. They love the idea, and they told us what they wanted was They wanted the homeless person to become the CEO of the company at the end of the movie. Someone who didn't have a grasp on reality. He had some issues with drugs and so on. And we eventually, what we ended up having to do is to walk away from the deal, because they really, with little tiny, scalpels and nicks and scissors, they just kept cutting away at the heart of what we were trying to say. And then that's when I know you can't take the baby that you really love. You can't take it in the beginning when you start. That's how you protect it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm writing that down.
Well, there's a longer
It's true though.
So the story that I tell people when they first come to me and they ask me about being in the movie business, the thing is this: you walk past this building and you have this beautiful baby in your arms and you love it. Somebody on the 18th floor looks down and goes, "Hey, you, come up here." So you go in the elevator and you go upstairs and they go, "Oh, this is amazing. You know what? We're going to do so many things. Oh, this is going to be great." But about a month later, you get some notes from 10 executives and they go, "What we were thinking, if we took the ear off and maybe a finger and maybe the eye, I think we would have something."
And make it a puppy.
And I think that's the hardest moment for someone this is the very first time they're on the 18th floor. That's the hardest moment for them to go, "Yeah, I see what you guys are going for. I'm going to go back downstairs," because now you're upstairs with the bottled water and the assistants and the crudité and all that other stuff. You don't want to go back downstairs and you don't want to go back on the street, but you have to make a decision from the very beginning that the moment they want to put a scalpel to the baby, I'm going to leave. And I think that's really hard. And I don't know if everyone builds that metal up before they get called upstairs. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to say, "No, I understand what you guys are doing and I know what you can do. That's not what I want to do." And you got to go back downstairs. Because otherwise you end up walking around like a lot of people that I know. You end up walking around for a long period of time with a really damaged baby that nobody else wants. And you can't do anything with it but love it and be mad and frustrated.
Makeba, Kisha.
So from my personal experience, I'm still new in the filmmaking. I'm about two and a half years into filmmaking. So I haven't done a whole lot of screenwriting and things like that. So I haven't been the person that has been invited to the 18th floor. So from my experience, I would say you'd have to, I guess it touches on what you were saying. Don't take the baby that you really love. But with that, I would say also stay true to yourself. If you feel that this project you're working on and this character has to be this way because there's a message you're specifically trying to reach, don't let someone try to have you change that into a completely different person, because that's not the message that you went in with this project. And I think along the way, people are going to say, "Oh, but I have an idea. I can make it better. Why don't," like you said, let's take the ear off. Let's do this. And the next thing you know, you don't even recognize the project that you put your blood, sweat, and tears in. And you look and you're like, "What is this?" So I think part of it is really holding your ground and staying true to yourself and believing that your work is worth it. Because let's be honest, not everyone's going to be your buyers. Not everyone's going to be your fan. Not everyone's going to be your people. But your people will become your people, and it might take you a while to find them.
Yeah.
But when you find those people, they are going to be your fans. They're going to be your cheerleaders. And I think it's hard because you want to do something so bad and you get really excited. So you want to show it to everyone. And you have to realize that anytime you get a rejection, it's not necessarily a rejection. It's just pushing you in the right direction to get to those people. So I think I know it's hard. I know it sucks sometimes, but eventually you get to those people who are your people, who wholeheartedly believe in your project as it is. And they might only do a snip instead of ripping the ear off. But the snip is the thing that you didn't think about. That's "Oh man, that's genius. Why didn't I think about that?" And then it's everything you've imagined and everything that you wanted. And I think that's what it comes down to. Stay true to yourself. And there's going to be a lot of things that happen along the way. You'll fail a lot. You'll fall on your face. You might have crying breakdowns, but in the end, it's all going to be worth it. And so I think staying true to yourself and believing that what you have is worth it. is gonna carry you.
And Makeba?
I also consider myself to be fairly new to film. I have also not been in a position to like be invited to the 18th floor or anything as of yet. But I actually for me personally, at least at the level that I am now, I have honestly zero issues maintaining the integrity of my film, mainly because like I am as indie as they come. I am like the definition of like independent filmmakers. So I like do everything. You know, I write my stories, I direct them, I produce them, I fund them. Like I literally do everything. So I'm very hands-on in every single stage of production, from pre-pro, the inception of the concept, all the way into assembling the team who's going to work on it with me, all through principal production, and then all through post-production, because I'm usually editing my films as well. So I literally oversee all stages of it. So there's never a moment where I feel like my film is in jeopardy of losing the message, or that my film is like in jeopardy of not being what I want it to be, or being told how I want it to be told. And I'm trying to really embrace and live in this period of my life right now where I do, I guess, have the mobility to just have complete creative control of my work, because I know if I get used to it now, when I do get that 18th floor offer, like I'm gonna already see the proof. I'm already gonna see the payoff of sticking to what I believe in and sticking to an idea, and like really going full throttle with a concept that I have, and not allowing anyone to change it in any way that I don't feel is honoring the project and overall. I think I'll have had enough experience seeing that that's always going to pay off, to where like I'll be mentally prepared to say no or walk away from something. And I also have examples of people in the industry who I look up to who have walked away from deals, and I've seen that they've been better for it. Even if they had to say no right now, it always paid off in the long run. It always paid off. So right now I don't have any issues maintaining my concept and its integrity, and hopefully that continues. I know it'll get harder though as more offers come, but for now there are no offers, so it's not hard at all to say no to anything.
But let's now talk about that. Let's talk about how we get noticed because of our successes, right? We create them on the back of our failures. And we learn but from the experiences where it doesn't work, and yet we only still discuss the successes, not the failures. So what failures of your own have you been able to learn from, and how did they change you and your process? Kisha, you're smiling. I know this is a great story, please.
Well, big failures in a way, but in the end it turned around. So my second film that I produced, which was in Astoria Film Festival, is called Perfect Intervention. It's a film about a crazy cat lady. I love it. It's so ridiculous. But I'm an indie filmmaker, so I funded my film, I produced it, I did everything, and I was kind of approaching it from figure it out. I'm a figured out kind of person, so I just went along. But I had produced one film before, so I had a good idea of how to do things. Well, the week that we went to shoot Perfect Intervention, I had a DP lined up and I had a sound person lined up. Well, I lost my DP and my sound person the week we were shooting my film. The week we were shooting my film. And when I tell you I had a major panic attack, and as someone, I don't know what I'm doing. I still don't know. I know what I'm doing kind of, but didn't know what I'm doing. So I had a panic attack, but I kind of didn't really have room to panic. So I kind of came together and I put it out there. I'm like, listen, I just lost my DP. I lost my sound person. This is the budget I have. I know it's not a lot of money. Can anyone please help me? And in the end, it was a godsend, because I ended up finding this amazing DP who was able to work with me on my budget, an even better sound person who came through and delivered, and was so, so wonderful. But when I tell you I had a breakdown at my computer the night before the shoot, it wasn't without tears, but that was a lesson for me, because I had been communicating with this DP for weeks, and I told him, I said, this is my budget. This is what I can offer. Are you okay with that? And he said, yes, but really he wasn't okay with that. And I should have seen it sooner. I should have caught on that sooner, that he was getting a little like ghosting a little bit towards the end. So he wasn't responding as much to emails, and I should have picked up on it. But he didn't communicate that he wasn't really okay. He said he was, but in the end, he really wasn't. And I think had that been settled from the beginning, I would have been able to find someone much sooner and not have to have that stress. But in the end, it was a godsend because I had such a better film. The DP was amazing. I loved him so much. So it actually worked out. And in a way, I'm kind of glad it happened, but it also taught me the lesson of you need to be really careful with the people you choose to work on your projects. And this was someone I didn't know. I kind of found him through a filmmaking group. So sometimes you take that risk where you're like, yeah, this person looks good. You vet them, you think you've got everything. And then in the end, they say, oh, sorry, like I really wasn't okay with the money you were offering. Sorry. And it's like, this is my film. This is my baby. And some people, they don't care. They don't really care. They're like, oh, sorry, your problem. But you know, that was a huge learning lesson for me, is you really, when you're indie producing and you're kind of wearing all the hats, you really have to make sure you're doing your due diligence and research and really nailing things down and being upfront. Like, this is the budget I have. Are you really okay with it? Or are you just saying you're okay with it? Because, you know, that's the thing with filmmaking. You really need so much money, but when you want to produce and you don't have a lot, it's more of a passion project, and you don't want to not pay anyone. So you say, listen, this is what I've got. Is there anyone that can work with me? And I think that's where collaboration comes, is finding people who are like-minded that say, you know what, I'm with you. Like, I know you don't have a big budget, but I believe in this project and I want to make this look good. And so going forward in the future, I'll make sure not to just pick some random person, but man, did I learn a hard lesson on that shoot. Losing, like, everything felt like it was falling apart, but then it all came together and we created this wonderful film, and I'm so happy. But I definitely had a breakdown at my computer the night before. In tears, I called my director and I was like, I don't think this is gonna happen. And she's like, what's wrong? She's like, it's okay. She's like, it's gonna be fine. And she had to calm me down. But you know, if you don't have a breakdown, is it gonna go well?
Right.
But yeah, so that was a big learning lesson for me.
And the stress didn't show in the film at all. Congratulations. On a wonderful
Thank you.
Now, Makeba, do you want to tell us about one of the failures that I find hard to believe that you worked on? But...
No, I mean, I definitely have some failures. I mean, my first failure as a filmmaker was honestly my senior thesis in film school, and that was it was such a difficult yet important thing for me to go through, because in my mind, I saw my thesis as like my introduction to like the industry. Like, you know, I just spent the last 4 years in school learning about this. This is, you know, this is what it's all been for, to showcase what I can do. And that was like the first time with me being a filmmaker where like my all just truly was not enough to produce the end result that I was looking for. And I the biggest takeaway I got from that thesis film was just that I can't do it all. And I already kind of do it all. The people who like really know me and have known me like as long as I've been doing film, they know that I've really let up a lot. Okay. And it's like hard to believe from people who just meet me, but I've definitely like let go. I've taken off a lot of hats over the years. And I've definitely really committed myself to like finding people that I truly trust and like respect, and whose work is just like what I'm looking for, and just trusting those people with these tasks. Because in my thesis, I did everything. I wrote it, I directed it, you know, I produced it. I also was the DP. Like I truly, and I edited it. The only thing I did not do on my film was sound. I quite literally, that was the only thing that I did not do on my thesis, sound and acting. And in the end, I really thought I was doing everything was gonna like make it the best possible that it could be. And it just really didn't. And when I saw the films of people who had like gotten like 20 people crews or whatever like that, things that I truly did not want to be bothered with, I saw the end product, or what can come of just having like one person for each task. And I saw just how that can truly just elevate a film and just make it better. And I learned that lesson really fast. And ever since then, I I've made it a rule that I can't DP anything that I'm directing or writing or anything like that. I can't do that. And there have been several times where I've decided to just step back as editor as well, even if I've wanted to just know that, you know what, I don't need that extra task on my plate right now. And I have, you know, XYZ who's here and perfectly capable of doing just as good a cut as me, possibly even better because they've been doing it longer. And just knowing when to like, to step aside and let somebody else do something for you, and knowing and trusting that your project will only be better for that. That was the first major film lesson I learned. And the last major film lesson I learned was with like a film that I did, the film that I did right after my thesis, the very first film I did post-grad. I learned that it's okay to redo things. If you try to make a film and it does not work out for whatever reason, in my case, it was several reasons, it just did not work out. It's okay to go back and just try that again and try things different, and maybe you'll get a different outcome. You are almost guaranteed to get a different outcome if you genuinely like reflect and reconsider your plan and reevaluate your script and what you have. You're almost guaranteed to have a better product in the end. So always know that it's in your best interest to ask for help, and know that it's okay to redo something if you do mess it up.
What was the name of that film?
Which one? The one that I redid?
Yes.
That was called Future Unknown. Yeah, I shot that 2017, like that's August of 2017. And then there was a whole bunch of stuff that happened. I had like a no-show actor, I had lost footage, I had so much stuff happen to the point where I literally could not even put together a rough cut. Like I didn't have a story when it all was said and done. And
Right.
I really just gave up on the film. But I had one of the actresses who was in that film. She's also a friend of mine, and she would always ask about it constantly, always asking for updates. And in the end, she just convinced me to just like reshoot it. She's just like, why don't we just reshoot it then? It wouldn't take that long. And to me, that was just not even like an option, reshooting it. But she said it just so casually. I was just like, yeah, we can just redo the whole thing. It's not that big of a deal. I was like, I don't think do you remember what those 3 days were like for us to get nothing out of it? Like, I was not in a hurry to go back and do it again. But I rethought about the plan. I rewrote the script. I learned from the mistakes of the last time. I realized one of the reasons it failed, and I immediately fixed that. And then I just, everything that I did that time, I kind of just didn't do it the second time around. I wanted a completely different outcome, so I did everything completely different. And in the end, it worked. We finished the film. It got into festivals, actually. It actually took home awards. And now it's like, it's one of my, it's a constant reminder to me that just try again, and you never know what could happen.
Wow. See, that question I asked was made for your answer.
No,
like, that's
any
perfectly.
filmmaker. All filmmakers have experiences where like they put their all into something and their outcome is not what they feel like they deserve. So
Right,
we all can
right.
learn lessons off of having a disappointing shoot.
So John.
So my story is a story of woe. So I think the thing that I've learned, the failure that I had, so there were a number of times on the film when I didn't cut my losses and I didn't let people go. And, you know, the second time that happened, I learned my lesson. And I think that if it's not working, understand that it's not working, cut your losses, redouble your efforts, make a new plan, Stan, and reconvene. So that's, you know, I had a film and someone that we should have fired, we didn't fire, and they made even more mistakes and caused even more havoc for us because we didn't fire them when we should have fired them. It cost us, I mean, it was a small film, and they made a scheduling error because they weren't paying attention and they weren't experienced enough. And the first mistake they made, everyone convinced me, well, you know, just it's okay. They made a second mistake that cost a film that was budgeted at $200,000 that cost me about $12,000, the mistake that they made.
Wow.
So the mistake that I made then that I don't make anymore is if it's not working, respectfully and with tact and compassion, cut your losses. Take a moment, stop, whatever it is you need to do to reconfigure, do that, and then push forward.
Great advice. So now I'm going to hand it back to Maria.
Yes, and Maria has to get her glasses. So your projects evolve through the creative process, right? Sometimes more dramatically in the editing process. It's often really hard to reconcile the difference between what we desired and what we achieved. How have you encountered this, and how do you move through it?
I think for me, it's a couple of different things. So either it's the challenge is what are we trying to achieve and how close can we come to it? But the other challenge is budgetary and also time. So depending on, for me, the first thing is, do we have enough time to get what we want? We're running at, we're running overtime for the day, we're running over budget, but we really need the shot of the car crash. We really need this or that. So you have to balance that against the final product. Are we gonna burn up all the money with the car crash and not have enough money for post? So what can we do instead of the car crash? And then, once we're in post-production, what we have, is this what we need? And just like Makeba was saying, do we need to go back and get some pickups? And then the last part is the editing process is really just, holding a firm hand on the purse strings with the director and the editor and saying, we need to deliver this by whatever's the time is. We need to deliver this. We need to deliver the best thing we can for what we have. And I think that for me, so do we have enough time? Do we have enough money? And how close to the original vision is this to what we want?
Okay, thank you. Kisha?
I think for me, at least with my second film, I had to end up going back to the drawing board because I did a one-day shoot and we got everything. I was really happy. It looked great. And then by the time it got to the editing room, my editor who worked on my first film came back to me and she said, the film looks great, but what message are you trying to achieve? Because basically when she pieced it all together, she said she felt like it fell kind of flat, like there wasn't a concise, clear message. So going back, I was like, well, this is what I want to achieve. She's like, great, that's not clear. So she's like, we need to figure out how are we going to achieve what you want in this film. We can either leave it as is and you can be okay with it, or can we try to restructure? Can we try to rethink? How can we tie in your message? And after brainstorming, I was like, I don't know, like I didn't really think about this because I still was new in the filmmaking process. But in the end, we decided, like you said, sometimes you have to come back and reconvene. And I ended up writing an additional scene and we shot some pickup stuff and we found a really great way to tie in and enclose everything that I wanted to. And she was happy with, the scene I came up with. I talked to my director, I talked to the DP, and honestly, it worked so well. So sometimes you need another eye because you have this vision and you're like, yeah, this is great. This is what I wanted. But someone else will look at it and say, okay, that's good, but it doesn't really make sense or not make sense, but it doesn't really tie in as a whole if there's a certain message you want. And so having her bringing that to me, I hadn't really thought about that. And in the end, we worked together and we pieced it and it came out really good. So I think sometimes you just have to be open to the fact that the vision that you had, you might think you have everything. And then in the end, it's like, oh, no, it doesn't quite work for what you want. Or just be okay with, this might fall flat. Are you okay with that? And some people might be like, oh, I can't be bothered. But it's like, no, I want to produce good work. So I'm glad that we reconvened and we shot pickup shots and we really tied it together and it worked.
Great, thanks. Makeba, you want to chime in?
I think that I know for me, I know what helps me through, I guess, the reality check of the product being what the product you have is and versus like how you envision the product in your mind. What usually gets me through that is just knowing that Even like my idols who have done this have felt this exact same experience. It really took me a long, I actually just recently accepted the fact that the editing process produces another script. Like I finally accepted that, because it's happened to me enough where, you know, you have the script and then you likely shoot that script, or at least a version of it, and then when you get in that editing room, like a lot can change, and a lot does change. Sometimes a lot just has to change for like just like film purposes, continuity purposes, message purposes, theme purposes. Sometimes things just have to change. So I finally just like accepted that, and it's actually helped me be a better screenwriter. It's taken so much pressure off of me, remembering that, you know, even though I want to have a completed script before I enter principal shooting, it's okay if I don't have like a perfect script, and it's okay if the script isn't it's okay if the script isn't perfect, because it's going to change anyway. Like when I'm editing this, it's not like some of these scenes probably aren't even going to make it. I've already accepted that, because that just happens to me every single time. I already accept some of those scenes aren't going to make it. Some of those lines aren't going to make it. Some of these little ideas that like I have been holding on to while I'm writing probably aren't going to make the cut. And so just accepting that the end product is always going to be different than what you imagined it in some way has really just helped me with the inception of the ideas that I make in the screenwriting process. And I think what also helps is just knowing that you can always try again with the next film. You'll probably never have a film that like is like shot for shot, image for image, concept for concept, what you entered production with in your mind. But I mean, you can always try for it each time if you want, and keep trying each time, and maybe you'll get to it, or maybe you'll get damn close. You never know. But just accepting that it's never going to be the same, while also like embracing just the personal challenge of trying to make it the same. I think it can keep it fun while also keeping you grounded, and the whole 9 yards.
Okay, thank you. I think Tanya is going to come back with the last question for this portion of the programming.
So actually, I think we're good with questions. Okay. And I want to thank you all. Great insight. What a varied array of perspectives. And I know that our fellows and guests that are on the line now are anxious to ask some questions. So we invite everyone now to turn on your cameras and unmute and ask away.
If you have a question, just put your hand up so we can designate you.
Geraldine.
Okay, so first of all, it's actually nice to meet all of you and actually hear your stories. It's pretty inspiring as somebody who also wants to create film in the future. But a question that I have for everyone is, when it comes to like your failures, and like you guys learn from your failures and all that. So what is one piece of advice that you can give somebody who is like hasn't even been able to get with anybody, is just starting to get into the idea, and what can they expect as a first time starter, as somebody who's like pursuing to do this, not even in college yet, basically a high schooler?
Well, I would offer this suggestion. First of all, what do you want to say as a storyteller? Think about what that is. And I think that will help you better align yourself with people whose messages are not in conflict with what you want to say. Because I think one of the challenges is being authentic. So what do you want to say, and how hard are you willing to fight to say that? And also how much of a cheerleader are you able to be to get people excited about what you want to say? So if you have a real, actual voice, I think people will gravitate toward that and be supportive. What do you want to say, and be as authentic as you can be when you start out. And that will weed out a lot of the heartache, in my opinion.
I would say that, if you, assuming you do plan on, you know, pursuing film in college, I would say when you get there, just, you know, really don't take for granted just the positive relationships you make with people there. I mean, you can really approach film school in so many different ways. Like, I definitely know people who went there just for connections and just for access to camera and just information, like no other priorities while they were at film school. It that was sort of kind of my approach, not even in the sense where like I didn't respect the value of networking. It's just like networking does not come naturally to me. So I'm just not really that type of person. I wasn't really putting myself out there to like make connections with anybody. So I didn't make that many film connections during my time at film school. But I did make a decent number of just like genuine, just, you know, personal connections with people who also happen to be in the film department. You know, and during our time there at the film department, I wasn't really involved with people who were like super well connected and could get me gigs on sets and get me paid or anything like that. I definitely did not have those relationships, but I definitely had relationships with people who just, we like the same films, we have the same like ideas, we have the same things that we'd like to eventually do one day sometime out there. And you know, that just they just became like a nice person to like get through the experience with, even if we couldn't like put money in each other's pockets. It was just nice to have a like-minded person who shared your passion. And it actually hasn't even, and now fast forward, I've been out of college about the same amount of time that I was in. So this is like my fourth year out of college. And now, just now, the people who I met like freshman year, they are now putting all types of money in my pockets. They mention my name whenever they're in a room with somebody somewhere who needs a producer or somebody somewhere who needs an editor. Like, they always mention my name, and likewise. So even if the connections you make in film school don't produce, I guess, like profit or like opportunity immediately, that doesn't mean like 5 years from now that it's not going to, because that's definitely been a thing for me. The people in my class who are like the most connected during the time there, I don't have any like connections with them now. Like, I've never been in a position where we could work together, but the people who I just got along with, I've gotten so much money just from references from them, and we've made so many films and just had such a good time. So it's not always about the connections. And everybody, the more you film, the more you realize like you can have a crew of 10 and everybody there is the best of the best, but you don't connect with anybody, so the experience is different. And you can also be on a set where there's like a crew of 4 and no one's like at the top of their field, but everybody likes you and cares about you and wants to help you make this film, and it's always going to be the better experience, and the film is always going to be better for it, always. So definitely you know, don't force the networking. It always comes naturally, and it always lasts the longest when it comes naturally also.
I do not have any film school experience because I'm an actor who started producing their own work as a way to learn about it that way. So coming from my perspective, I would say the most important things is if you have an idea and you are really excited about it, I think that's a great starting point, is to like be really excited about your idea, be like focused on that. And then from there, I say put it out in the universe. Like, hey, I want to make this film. This is my idea. I'm going to do this. And if you're a good person, I would say number one, even before that, just be a good person. People love to work with people on set who are just good people, who are likable. They drop their ego at the door. They're not a diva. They're just good people. You enjoy being around them. So for me, I put out like, hey, I really want to make this first film. I really want to make this. Do I know anyone? Like, can anyone recommend a DP? And I was looking for everyone, and people just flocked. They're like, hey, actually, I think that's great. Let me connect you with this person. And then that person connected me with this person. And then that person connected me with this person. And Makeba was saying, like, you might be on a set with people who are not quite at the top of their game, but they all really want to help make your project the best project. And when I tell you, that is the truest thing that I can also vouch on, because my first film, I had good people on my set, but they weren't at the top of their game, but they 100% were there to make sure we were putting out a good film. And when I say, like, my first AD went out, he got me all of my PAs. He went out of his way. He had a book. he showed up on set. I don't even know how I got so fortunate that these people were so willing to help me. I didn't know what I was doing, but I think because I had this idea and I had a vision and I just wanted to make art, that these people were so willing to say, you know what, we're going to come on this journey. We're going to see what happens, but we're here with you. We're going to be with you. And that's how networking starts. And then you meet those people and then they're going to recommend you for the next film. And then that person might recommend you for the next film. And 3 years later, you might be at Cannes Film Festival. You know, you never know. Such a small world. That one seed you planted 4 years ago can come back 5 years from now. And next thing you know, you're working with the big dogs. But like she said, do it authentically. Don't force it. Don't like walk up to a room and say, hi, you know, my name is, I'm trying to do this thing. It has to just be a natural thing. So that's what I can offer from my personal perspective of not having been to film school.
Any other questions? Salma.
You were talking about what made a black film, but in conclusion, what do you think is more important? The the message that the film brings to the society, or who made the film, and if that person is actually related to the Black community.
I think it's more important that the film is authentic and resonates with an audience, because the film itself will carry itself. So it's more important that it's an authentic telling of that experience, because if that's what's going to help in terms of the filmmaking industry. A successful film will beget other successful films. So someone makes a films about hair clips and that film works, other people will be able to make films about hair clips. So I think if someone makes the decision to tell an authentic film about the Black experience and uses their resources wisely to bring in other voices and so on, and it's a good film, it's a valuable message, I think that's more important than necessarily that a Black person made it, because that one film will open a possibility of other Black stories being made by Black people.
That was great. Makeba?
Sorry. I'm gonna go out on a whim and say that at least right now, I do think that it's more important that the creator and artist be Black. I think that takes precedence over just like the message, because I think like I forgot who said it, but somebody said, you know, there have been non-Black people telling Black stories like forever, you know.
Yes.
And that's always going to be an option for non-Black filmmakers. They're always going to have that option to tell a story about people who are not like themselves. But there just aren't as many opportunities for Black people to like tell their stories. Like there just aren't as many opportunities. And I think a film, for me, at least in my experience, is always just so much more special, or a Black story is always so much more special when it's told by a Black person. And I think it really is, it comes back to the idea of like representation and how just like important that is. I mean, I'm sure everybody has seen like a film, or all Black people have seen films that were about Black people, and like they loved the film and they got super excited to see their story being told. And then they found out like the director was white, or like the producer was white, or like most of the people involved were white. And it was really only the actors who were Black and the story itself. And it doesn't mean the film is no longer good, but it always just feels like a missed opportunity for true authenticity. So I think that when you see a Black story told, and then you also see that the person telling it is a Black person, it already just computes in the brain that, oh, Black people are doing this, they can do it, I can do it tomorrow if I wanted to, maybe not with this budget and with this set design and production value, but I can also do it. And I think I truly believe that representation is like, that's like the foundation of it all, because if you don't see anybody who looks like you doing things, you really think that you can't do it. I know I definitely thought that when I was like acting. The fact that I just never saw people who looked like me doing spy movies truly made me think I just couldn't do spy movies as an actress. And as you get older, you realize these things aren't true. But you know, perception is a very big deal, and as filmmakers, it's all about like what we're showing people. Like we're the things we make are visual, I guess, are visible declarations of society and what it's like. So we need to show people that Black stories told by Black filmmakers is prioritized over just telling Black stories. So I think so personally.
Anyone else want to chime in to Salma's question? We have time for one more question. Well then, thank you very much.
I'll say thank you to our moderators. Tanya and Maria, thank you so much. Thank you to our panel, John Michael, Makeba, Kisha. Thank you to our film fellows who showed up and asked questions and participated and paid attention. I think, you know, everything you've said just resonates so much. So thank you so much, everybody, for participating.
Thank you for having me. This was definitely, it's nice. You know, I can't be on set like I want to be, but it's nice to, you know, still talk about film with filmmakers. It's nice.
Right. Right.
Well, you can share my, I don't know, Instagram, Clubhouse, all that stuff. It's John Reefer. If any of them want to reach out to me, they can.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank
Put
you.
it in the chat.
Well, yeah.
It's just,
well, we can email it out.
You can email it out. It's John Reefer with all the platforms, just John Reefer.
Yes, Nina, I would love like an email of everyone's like platforms and stuff like that. I'd love to follow and see what everybody's working on. Definitely.
Email I sent you guys about the panel has everyone's LinkedIn. What's that called? Link. So that you could just.
Let's all connect. That's it.
Yes.
We'll all connect.
And all of the fellows, if you don't already have a LinkedIn, I am making you make a LinkedIn in our next meeting, so you will also be connected.
So you can start following.
Yeah.
I have a special request. If I didn't realize who Austin P was, if Austin P could please turn back on his camera so we could say hello. And Austin P, would you like to introduce yourself and give us a little bit about your background? You're on mute. Sorry.
Hi, good evening. My name is Doug Patience. Hey, John, how are you? Thank you for allowing me to listen in on your program this evening. I appreciate it. My background actually goes back to kind of like the mid to early 80s, doing a lot of production work at MTV and also a lot of the early videos that were shot throughout the city. Plus, production was running hot and wild in New York then, from the Super to Hudson Hawk to, what else? Family Business and others. But I appreciate you allowing me to join in. Tanya and Maria sent out that word. It's a pleasure to see that that this has grown to a great extent, that there are a lot more African Americans out there in the business. I could tell you a lot of times, John too. John is young, but still, I'm older, but he's not that young.
Like,
anyway,
like a 4 minutes, about 4 minutes.
4 minutes younger.
But yeah, no, it was a different time. It was
a different time.
But I'm glad that things have changed and you guys are making inroads and making changes. So congratulations, keep up the great work. I'll be out here watching and appreciating and loving whatever projects you guys take care of.
Likewise.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. And you told him to turn his camera off.
Yeah.
Tanya was
I,
like,
told her to- I didn't realize who it was.
Yeah, and I'm sending her a message.
Yeah, no, I did it I was on earlier and I just hit it by accident and I didn't know it was on until she says, please turn. I was like,
Well, if I was smart, I would have just said, and our fourth panelist.
I was saying.
No.
Oh, no. I didn't know you're supposed to be a panelist. Oh,
Yeah.
No, no,
No, he
no.
wasn't. He wasn't.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
Even who he is, we
But
would
if I was
brought him
smart,
up had we realized.
right, exactly.
Oh.
We would have had him join in as a panelist. He's been in the business a long time.
Well, thank you,
A lot
everyone.
of great productions. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, likewise. This has been excellent. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope everybody's has a great creative flow and still stays creative and active and all that good stuff.
It's
Yay
hard
for the
times.
vaccine. Yay for
Yeah.
the vaccine.
Yeah,
Right.
The vaccine theater is open
I know.
at
Yes.
All
25%, right?
Yeah.
So-
May we
so
all go back to a safe set soon.
Indeed.
Amen.
I
Amen.
hope so. I hope so. But
Well, at least the mask upset. I was on the set a couple of days ago. A lot of masks, a lot of hand sanitizer, a lot of testing, a lot of temperature checking.
Mm.
It's like that movie. It's like Contagion.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's like,
that
go-
movie
it's
was
like going
great.
to work in Contagion.
well, somebody
Right.
mentioned that I Am Legend took place in the year 2021, and
Oh,
it was a
wow.
virus, and then the right, and the vaccine made people into zombies. So people were like,
I haven't
Oh, boy.
Oh,
Art imitating life, hopefully not.
right, right.
So given the year we've just had, let's just.
Yeah.
I expect anything at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's good because you're going to get anything.
Yeah, right.